Good afternoon. My name is Wayne Groff. I'm a longtime friend of Jody Williams and a member of the First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis. As we get started, I would like to identify where we are and why we are here. We gather on the historical ancestral lands of the Dakota, the Anishinaabe, the Ho-Chunk, and other First Nations peoples. We gratefully acknowledge them and their stewardship of these lands. We also recognize the vitality of Native people who continue to make the Twin Cities their home today and strive to work with them for a brighter future. We are also gathering at the First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of Congregational Humanism, where we carry on the tradition of free thought dedicated to a search for truth, meaning, and justice in the here and now. We are here to celebrate and honor the life of our dear friend, Jody Williams, to share both our joy and sorrow. And now we will have a reading by Jody's niece, A.J. Williams.
Many would agree that it's the little things in life that matter. For Jody Louise Williams, who passed away among friends in her South Minneapolis home on October 17th, it was all about the little things. This was true in her personal and family life, in her lovely home, and in her illustrious career as an artist, printmaker, small book creator, and tiny object collector, and teacher at the Minneapolis College of Art and Design and the Minnesota Center for Book Arts. Those who knew Jody understood and admired her affection for the little things. In fact, she was awarded the 2019 Minnesota Book Artists Award. One of the judges noted that her celebrated entry, For Now, was small in scale, but monumental in terms of creative achievement. That comment perfectly described not only Jody's work, but also who she was as a person and professional. Jody's affinity for small things was not surprising. At age 4, on her first day of nursery school, she was already a big sister to 3 smaller siblings. As the third of 6 children, including 2 rambunctious, often teasing older brothers, Jody found her place and her peace by focusing on detail and order. She began collecting and organizing small objects, such as shells near her grandparents' Florida home. At Christmas time, Jody took pride in creating the smallest wish lists in the tiniest handwriting. Those who saw her more recent to-do lists know that by minimizing tasks and miniature script, she maintained control and order in her life, even through her decade-long struggle with ovarian cancer. Jody continued to love small things throughout her life, especially rejoicing in the births of her 4 nieces, Allie, AJ, and Amy Williams, and Caroline Roram, and 3 nephews, Alex, Justin, and Bodie Roram, who survive her. She forged a special relationship with each one, helping to guide and support those tiny beings into the wonderful young adults they are today. She also raised 2 small kittens into maturity, Edith and Trixie, the latter of which Jody featured on Facebook, calendars, and greeting cards. In fact, Jody adored all children and cherished her strong relationships with friends and neighbors' kids. She was always patient and kind and spoke glowingly of their achievements and funny comments. No matter how busy she was, Jody always made time for the little ones. More recently, she was raising moths and butterflies, finding leaves to feed the minuscule caterpillars, waiting patiently as they matured inside cocoons, and delighting in their successful release into the world. She kept meticulous records and photos of the process, often naming the caterpillars after friends who had passed away or were enduring tough times. Fanatical about nature and the outdoors, Jody especially enjoyed running and cycling. She completed 2 marathons in her 20s and took up cycling later. She became an honorary member of the On Your Left Bike Club from Chicago's North Shore, and more than held her own during the fast paceline rides at 20+ miles per hour. She competed in 2 bike races and won them both. Jody preferred her mountain bike to her car, commuting in any kind of Minnesota weather while reducing her carbon footprint. Jody was a treasured family member and friend whose small but sharply intelligent and incredibly witty presence added immensely to any gathering, whether a dinner party, book club meeting, poetry reading, or group bike ride. She leaves a gaping hole in the hearts of her mother, Marilyn Hannah Williams, who is 92, her brothers, Al with wife Sue, and Dave with wife Becky, and sister Linda. She was predeceased by her father, Jack Williams, brother Rick, and sister Jean. She is survived by many beloved cousins, including John Hanna and his wife Heather, who live in the Chicago area. Her very close extended family also includes members of the Willwall clan, Diane Rosewall, who's 94, as well as Dave with partner Ann, Mike with wife Ellen, and Ann with husband Steve, and their progeny, who she considers nieces and nephews. In addition, her loyal Minneapolis wolf pack offered unfailing support, assistance, laughter, company, and diversions, and advocated for her until the very end. Jody's family is extremely grateful for the love and support that enveloped her. Professionally, Jody will be remembered by many former students whose talents and careers she nurtured, as well as for her admirable artistic legacy. Always artistic, she enjoyed jewelry design in high school, ETHS class of 1974, and printmaking at Carleton College, class of 78, before deciding to earn her MFA at the Rochester Institute of Technology in 1983, where she discovered papermaking and numerous printmaking techniques. Back in Minneapolis, where Jody spent the rest of her life, she was an early member of the Warm Artists Collective, traveled nationwide to participate in American Crafts Council shows, became an adjunct professor at MCAD, established Flying Paper Press for her uniquely crafted artist books, and exhibited through Form and Content Gallery. Her weekend bookmaking workshops at MCBA drew a loyal following, and she presented lectures at museums and universities worldwide. Jody won the Artist Book Award twice from the Minnesota Center for Book Arts, received a Jerome Foundation Fellowship, and garnered numerous other grants and awards along the way. Her work is in the collections of the Walker Art Center, San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, Minnesota Historical Society, and countless other museums, universities, libraries, and private collections. As Jody explained in a video prepared by Twin Cities Public Television several years ago, I think that there is something about having to slow down and be very careful that helps me in my own process of thinking about the inherent meaning of the little things I'm dealing with. In the end, it was all about the little things, the tiny cells that eventually won the battle. However, she will forever hold an enormous place in the hearts of thousands.
A warm welcome to you all on this day to celebrate our dearest, right? My name is Carol Lee Chase, and I've known Jody for close to 4 decades. I consider that a lifelong friend, right? And I'd like to reminisce a little bit about Jody and how I met her, because a lot of you here, I met you at that time as well. So I met Jody in 1985 in the Peanut Gallery at Warm Gallery. We were the newbies, and we were trying to figure out what this whole new thing about being in a women's feminist artist collective was all about, and how to make artwork, and how to make our way through the world. Excuse me. It was a pretty big deal to be accepted into WARM, and so along with a lot of WARM members, we worked our way into being artists. And I admired her wit, obviously, her wordsmithing, her wordplay, and if you had the chance to sit next to her during a particular event, you were also privy to her excellent commentary. She had a unique and kooky personality. I'd never met anybody like her. And I admired her for taking herself so seriously as an artist. That meant a lot to me, and that was a role model for myself as well. So we were just coming up into our art practices. We were trying to figure out how to be an artist. Then we both started teaching, and then there's that whole complex, complicated business of teaching. And we kind of buoyed each other along, if you will. But Sure, we had careers, but there was so much more to life than that, right? She knew we had so much fun. She knew how to have fun. So, the two of us, and I'm going to go into my personal reminiscent here, we shared a love of all things propelled by wheels. Cars, bicycles, and bobcats. And I'm not talking like cats. I'm talking diminutive, heavy machinery. Oh, we'd be like, oh, there's a bobcat. Let's go over and look at it. And then, of course, in Jody's way, we spun out this whole fantasy that, when we retire, we're going to go halvesies on a bobcat, and then we're going to have a business called A Couple of Old Chicks with a Bobcat. Until, of course, we realized if we were going to rent it out, that meant some dummy was going to get a hold of it and ruin it, and we would have to do all the work. And anyways, we just ended up dropping that one. Bicycles. So we all know she was a bicyclist, very serious about it. We rode all over the place, all along the river, down to Fort Snelling, up all the hills. She flew up the hills. I flew down the hills, as she pointed out to me, because I was much heavier than she was. Which I took no offense at, because who was lighter than Jody Williams, right? Okay, and then cars. We loved cars. She loved Ferraris. She did not own one, obviously. But her cars, when I first met her, she had Juanita, this green Volvo station wagon, 70s era one. Oh, God. Juanita, fussy. And, I got the right mechanic. He's the perfect mechanic for Juanita, and I can afford him, and he knows exactly what's going on with Juanita, right? So that time, she had that station wagon because she was doing all these craft fairs on the different coasts, right, and driving there. So, her booth fit into the back of the station wagon. And I believe it was on her way to the Smithsonian, one of the Smithsonian fairs, Juanita dies. In like Indiana or Ohio, something like that. And so gets Juanita towed in, but Juanita is toast. And she looks around and she spots that Buick Roadmaster. Oh, God, that car. I mean, theater lighting and a V8 and, So she bought that car right on the spot. Talked the shop people into, loading up her car with the booth, and off she went. She was fearless like that. Just off she went. And then one last bit about cars is I had the distinct pleasure of attending the Laguna Seca Classic car races in Monterey, California, with Dave and Al and Rick. I met the mythic, I spent the day with the mythic Rick. And that was awesome. She took pictures of, I would say, every single car in that race. Yeah, it's hard to believe that we're here celebrating her. We all had, I had something special with her. You had something special with her. We all shared something special with Jody. We felt seen by her. We felt loved by her. We felt admired by her. And here's to her generous and unique spirit. Thank you.
That was wonderful. That was Jody. I didn't know she had liked bobcats so much. My dad had one at the farm. We could have played around with that. I've known Jody for only 20 years, and part of the group I taught a class at Split Rock on the North Shore, and it was poetry shaping the page, and Jody was in the class. I didn't know how honored I was to have her there, but I'd like to simply, I'm just going to read three poems, three short poems, and each one has a raison d'etre. The first one is a collaboration between the poem and Jody's illustrations and setting to make a beautiful broadside that was part of a collection called the Heartland Portfolio, and it was printed at the Anderson Center in Red Wing. And here's the poem. And the reason I just think in order to work on this broadside, she had to know every word probably better than I did. No doubt better than I did. Here's the poem. Homesteading. Long ago, I settled on this peace of mind, clearing a spot for memory, making a road so that the future could come and go, building a house of possibility. I came across the prairie with only my wagon load of words, fragile stories packed in sawdust. I had to learn how to press a thought like seed into the ground. I had to learn to speak with a hammer, how to hit the nail straight on. When I took up the reins behind the plow, I felt the land threading through me, stitching me into place. That stitching is Jody, really. And my name is Joyce Sutphin. The name there reminded me to tell you that. And the second poem I want to read is a poem about a place that Jody loved, and I love too, and I'm pretty sure that we read this poem together. She didn't set it or anything, but you'll see it's called a postscript. Seamus Heaney, the great Irish poet, wrote this about Ireland, and here it is. Postscript. And sometime, make the time to drive out west into County Clare, along the flaggy shore, in September or October, when the wind and the light are working off each other, so that the ocean on one side is wild with foam and glitter, and inland among stones, the surface of a slate gray lake is lit by the earthed lightning of a flock of swans, their feathers ruffed and ruffing, white on white, their fully grown, headstrong-looking heads tucked or cresting or busy underwater. Useless to think you'll park or capture it more thoroughly. You are neither here nor there, a hurry-through which known and strange things pass, as big soft buffetings come at the car sidewise and catch the heart off guard and blow it open. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit dancey today. That's part of what happens. And Jody was always great about talking about the things we face. That was a special talent she had. So I'm going to take a little drink and read a little poem for you. In Passing by Liesl Müller. How swiftly the strained honey of afternoon light flows into darkness, and the closed bud shrugs off its special mystery in order to break into blossom, as if what exists so that it can be lost and become precious.
Hello, I'm Harriet Bart. To see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wildflower, hold eternity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. Jody Williams, from the catalog Warm, an exhibition at Landmark Center, 1984. She said, "It's all very simple. Simple shapes, movement, experiments, techniques. I must go on. There is so much more of me that wants to be expressed." And there was so much more. Her book titles read as chapters of a memoir. For Now, Still Sense, Quintessential Questions, Relative Remains, Just This, Next to Nothing. And then her exhibition at Form and Content, Shadow and Dust, Ephemeral and Fleeting, A Small Song of Peace, A Brief Moment of Joy. Snatching the eternal from the desperately fleeting is a great magic trick of human existence. And Jody had her own special kind of magic in a life that was scaled to thrive. Small books, unassuming and big enough. Carefully considered, meticulous, delicately detailed, exquisitely rendered, fragile and enduring, collected. Jody had her own special kind of magic. Now you see her, now you don't.
I'm Mary Leichvold, and I'm reading a poem by Elizabeth Bishop called One Art. The art of losing isn't hard to master. So many things seem filled with the intent to be lost that their loss is no disaster. Lose something every day, except the fluster of lost door keys, the hour badly spent. The art of losing isn't hard to master. Then practice losing farther, losing faster, places and names, and where it was you meant to travel. None of these things will bring disaster. I lost my mother's watch, and look, my last or next to last of 3 loved houses went. The art of losing isn't hard to master. I lost 2 cities, lovely ones, and vast are some realms I owned, 2 rivers, a continent. I missed them, but it wasn't a disaster. Even losing you, the joking voice, a gesture I love, I shan't have lied. It's evident the art of losing's not too hard to master, though it may look like, write it, like disaster.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Danny Roach. Jody and I met in Minneapolis in 1982 at Warm Gallery, just like several other women here. The art connection was there from the beginning. The friendship did not take long to follow. For close to 30 of the 40-plus years of our friendship, we lived within 3 blocks of one another. Lucky for us, for 7 of those years, there was a Dairy Queen at the midpoint of those 3 blocks. Yes, more bonding. There were only 8 days between our Aquarian birthdays, and we celebrated every year. Milestone birthdays deserved extra planning. Some people here will remember the 30th party at my house, or the 40th party at Jody's house. Planning a party with Jody means you might end up with a poppy seed cake with chocolate frosting and 6 hand-shaped cookies sticking out of the cake for the number 30 and pink lettering that says, "We're the best." Heck yeah. I knew Jody as smart, funny, curious, creative, and fiercely independent. We bonded over efficiency and order. I know, go figure. Over the years, we had several conversations about the number of stops one could make while running errands, especially with a little pre-planning. I recall bragging about a personal best of around a dozen stops one Saturday. I learned early on, do not try to compete with Jody. Her route would have more stops, and she'd be on her bike carrying library books, supplies for a class. Yeah. We can see from the exhibit out in the foyer, the art forms that Jody pursued were plentiful, as were her interests. She never stopped creating or exploring. It is true, as you've heard, in the last few years, she became an avid lepidopterist, running a fertility clinic for moths and monarch butterflies from her front porch. Jody was truly engaged with life. I am sure many of you here have a byproduct of her creativity, a unique or special book, or card, or artwork she created just for you. Many of you knew that Jody was a private person who let people in on her terms. Her home was an extension of who she was, with collections of precious objects and delicately arranged tableaus and artwork everywhere. I ran across a quote by the painter Joan Mitchell shortly after Jody passed, and I have to share it. "The solitude that I find in my studio is one of plenitude. I am enough for myself. I live fully there." And yet, when the two of us went to art openings in the last few months, it was Jody that was not ready to leave when I was. There was always another person she knew and wanted to talk to. How many times will we each think of Jody in the coming days and years? We'll have a story or hear some gossip we want to share with her. We'll hear her guiding us as we compost or recycle, guiding us. We will appreciate a tiny object in all its magnificence. Her art in our homes will reveal something new to us. These will be some of the countless gifts she will continue to share with us. Whatever triggers your Jody memories, I hope they are plentiful. I hope you can savor them and remember how important you were to her. I am but one of many in this Minnesota community that is sharing their love and appreciation of Jody with the Williams family today. There are too many names to list, and frankly, I don't want to forget someone. But there are many ways I can call to mind those that have and are honoring Jody. The friends that were part of Jody's cancer journey shared their strength with her. Friends and neighbors stepped up to help care for Jody's home and her office at MCAT. Generous hearts and hands contributed to this exhibition and today's whole event. Others are working to honor Jody with an exhibition at MCBA in January of 2024. To all the dear friends, family, colleagues, neighbors, former students here today, I can hear Jody saying, "You're the best."
My name is Jody Williams, and I'm a book artist who lives in Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is my exhibition called Small Orders at Forman Content Gallery in Minneapolis. I chose the title Small Orders because I was going to include this book, Relative Remains, and then all of the boxes that go with the book. We're looking at a box that's called Scorpions, and it's one of a series of 15 boxes that I did. Each of them focus on invertebrates. The subtitle for the whole series is actually My Favorite Invertebrates, because it started with me collecting little things and then drawing them. So the book started out as drawings of the creatures, and I didn't know what I was going to do with them. I knew there were going to be pairs of invertebrates. Once I had all the drawings done, then I did the book, because that would kind of give me information on what I wanted to put in the boxes. There are 15 page spreads, each of them dealing with one of the invertebrate pairs that I focus on. They're sort of like homages to all invertebrates, because invertebrates are often overlooked, even though most of the species in the world don't have backbones. The book has an additional element of writing, and I tried to get the writing not to be scientific, but to take the pieces more into the realm of poetic writing. One of the 15 boxes is actually a favorite of mine and a favorite of many visitors to the gallery, and it's called Beetles. Each of the box contains 2 drawings, and the drawings are pairs of related invertebrates. One of them is very, very old, and the other is still alive today. The compositions are all like solutions to a problem. Given these elements and this size box, how can I make different compositions that look balanced but yet aren't symmetrical and boring? I sometimes feel like the rules and limitations and formulas I set up on myself actually help create solutions, and they're freeing or liberating in a way that you might not think rules or formulas would be. I've been collecting little things since I was little. So I had a little jewelry box that I could keep little things in. Small natural objects. Probably goes back to visiting my grandparents in Florida and going to the beach and collecting little shells. I will admit that the book is small. The scale comes from a reaction to going to art school in the 70s and 80s with mostly male macho teachers insisting that big is the best, and I rebelled in a way. Working on a small scale makes it more difficult. If it's a 1/16 of an inch off, that's essentially a mile. I think there's also something about having to slow down and be very careful that helps my own process of thinking about things and thinking about the inherent meanings of the little things that I'm dealing with. If I'm going slow and being careful, then I'm able to really observe the things closely. The entire series of boxes includes all of the research that I've been doing about the invertebrates, but also all of the thinking about what it means to be oh so very old and what it means to be a creature that has lived and survived that long versus what it means to be a creature that's relatively young like ourselves and probably isn't going to last very long, certainly not as long as the horseshoe crabs, and probably not even as long as the trilobites.
Minnesota Original is made possible by the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
And now we'll hear from Dave Williams, representing the family of Jody Williams.
Hi, everyone. It's great to see you all here today. I can't tell you how happy we are that you were all here to celebrate the life of my sister Jody. The presentations were great. We really appreciated everything that everybody did for this particular service. And thank you all for being here. Let's all celebrate Jody's life together in the after for refreshments, okay? Thank you.
So thank you for coming to mark this moment in time to celebrate the life lived with intention, precision, integrity, and courage. Please join us following the service for refreshments and conversation in the lower assembly hall. And I'd like to thank Amos Lucidi for the music here today, and also the Lake Quartet for the music before the program. So we can go down and have refreshments downstairs and have more conversations.